Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Ainan's Forensic Classroom. So in the last video, we talked about note taking. Why is it important? Why investigators are so emotionally attached to their notebooks and why forgetting to write things down can actually become a nightmare in the courtroom. But today we are going to get into the real stuff because now the question is when you are actually standing at a crime scene with officers walking around, there are evidences everywhere, people are talking, and your brain is trying not to panic. Now, at that point of time, what exactly are you supposed to write in your notebook? And trust me, investigators are not just randomly writing something, no. Crime scene documentation has a proper structure, it has a proper order and a very specific purpose. So in this video, we will go step by step, and by the end of this video, you should be able to look at a crime scene and you should know that, okay, this is what needs to go into my notes. So let's start with the what goes into your notes. Now we come to the most important part of this entire topic. What exactly do investigators write in the crime scene notes? Now, to make this easy, I'm going to divide the crime scene notes into three simple clusters. And remember, all of this is happening under pressure in real time, where you are surrounded by people, evidence, noise, and sometimes much more chaos. So organization during that matters a lot. Let's start with the cluster one. It should be your header block. Okay, now this is basically the administrative section. Now think of this as the ID card of your notes. Now every single entry should begin with a case number, something which should look like this, where your name initials with the year, place, and the case number. Without a case number, your notes are going to lose their identity. There's no way to connect them properly to a specific investigation. Now, this should always be written clearly at the top. Then you have to mention the date and exact time. And when I say time, I mean the exact time. You don't have to write afternoon, evening, no. Write it properly like this because an investigation depends heavily on timelines. In fact, it's one of the most common courtroom question where you have to face is what time exactly did you observe this? And your notes should already have this answer. Then you have to write about the full location and GPS details. You have to write the complete location of the scene. Do not write a flat in Kashmir. Instead, you can write as flat 4B, Khyber Apartments, Lal Chowk, Srinagar, Kashmir, along with the pin code of that location. And if GPS coordinates are available, include those as well. Then you have to mention about the arrival and departure time. Now, this is extremely important because it protects the investigator as well. Suppose the evidence was disturbed before you arrived, right? Now, if your notes clearly show that you reached the scene later, you have already established that you were not responsible for that disturbance. So always mention your arrival time and the departure time as well. Then mention about the personnel present at the scene. Now you have to document every person present at the crime scene, and I mean everyone, be it forensic officers, photographers, police personnel, medical staff, and even unauthorized individuals if they have entered the crime scene before it was secured. Because every single person entering a crime scene has the potential to affect the evidence. Then we will move into the cluster 2 where you have to write about the scene conditions. Now this section is all about the environmental context that cameras often fail to properly capture, right? And sometimes these details completely change the direction of an investigation. Now what you have to include here is write about the weather condition. Now when you arrive at the crime scene, you look around for the weather conditions. You have to document the weather very carefully. For example, you can write this light drizzle with moderate wind from the northwest direction and the approximate temperature is 22 degrees Celsius. Now, some of you might think that why does the weather matter so much? Because see, rain can wash away the blood, or if there is wind, it can disturb the trace evidences, and if the environment is too hot, it can accelerate decomposition. So, documenting the weather condition directly affects your evidence interpretation. Then you have to mention the lighting conditions. You have to mention when you arrive at the crime scene, was the scene naturally lit, or was it artificially lit, or was it dim or completely dark? Or were the lights switched on when investigators arrived? Now, all of this matters because lighting affects the visibility and the observations. Then you have to mention the condition of the crime scene on arrival. This is one of the first things investigators should document. For example, you have to write, was the main door open or closed, or did you see the windows were broken, or was the furniture disturbed? Now, documenting the original condition of the crime scene basically helps the investigators explain the later changes. And again, it also protects the investigators from being blamed for alterations if made before their arrival. Then at last you have to mention about the sensory observation. Now this is the part that make crime scene notes truly unique, because see, cameras cannot record the sensory observation. Your notes have to include the smell, sound, temperature, sensations, environmental impressions, and if you see any unusual observations. And finally, you have to mention about the evidence and the action details. Now, this section documents the actual forensic work that is happening at the crime scene. You have to include the victim description. You have to describe the victim carefully and objectively. You have to include the body position, the visible injuries, clothing, lividity, rigor mortis, the approximate age, and the gender of the victim. And after that, you have to describe the evidence. Now, this is another area where investigators must avoid being vague. Please do not write found a gun near the body. That tells us almost nothing. Instead, what you can write is one black semi-automatic pistol, which is located approximately 47 centimeters from the victim's right hand. Now, the detailed notes basically create stronger forensic documentation. And finally, you have to write about the packaging details. You have to document how the evidence was packaged and sealed. For example, you can write that item number 3, which is one shell casing, was placed in a sterile paper evidence bag, and it is sealed using evidence tape, and it is initialed by S.O. Priya Sharma at 15:10 hours. Now, this is the part of maintaining chain of custody. The chain of custody is extremely important in forensic science because it helps you track down who handled the evidence and when. All right, now let's talk about the rules of the crime scene note taking. And honestly, these are not just good habits, these are some non negotiable rules that investigators are expected to follow. Because always remember that your notebook is not your personal diary, it's a legal document. Okay, now let's go through the major rules one by one. The first one is use pen only. Okay, now you have to write your notes using a pen. Preferably, we use black ink pen. Never use a pencil because pencil marks can be erased or altered easily, but a pen would create a permanent record. Then the rule number 2 is never erase your mistakes. Now, this is very important. If you make a mistake, do not scratch it out, okay? Or do not use a whitener. Do not scribble over it until nobody can read it. Instead, what you can do is you can just draw a single line through the mistake, and then you can write the correction next to it, and including your initials. Okay. The original entry should still remain visible because courts prefer transparent corrections over your hidden changes. Then the third rule is never leave blank spaces. You do not have to leave empty spaces or blank lines in your notebook because later someone could claim that information was added afterward. And trust me, defense lawyer notice these things immediately. So if you see that there is an unused space left on a page, what you can do is either draw a diagonal line through it, or you can write NIL Now, this shows that nothing was intentionally left blank for future editions. The next rule is write immediately. Now, crime scene notes should be written as the events are happening, not later in the police vehicle, not after reaching the station, or not after the end of the day. You have to write observations immediately at the scene itself, because what happens is human memory fades very quickly under stress, and crime scenes are highly stressful environments. Even small delays can cause investigators to forget timing, positions, or important observations. The fifth one is use quotation mark for exact statements. Now, whenever a witness or a victim or a suspect says something important, write their exact words in quotation marks, okay? Because if you paraphrase it, if you rewrite it in your own words, it can unintentionally change the meaning. And in investigations, wording matters a lot. Exact statements become part of your evidence record. So quotation marks are very important. Then the last rule is no opinions or assumptions. Now, this is one of the biggest rules in forensic documentation. Your notes should contain facts and observations. No personal interpretations. For example, if you write that the suspect looked nervous, this is very wrong. This is your opinion, right? Different people may interpret behavior differently. Instead, what you can write is you can write the observable fact. You can write that suspect was pacing continuously and avoided direct eye contact during questioning. Now, that is objective documentation. Anyone observing the same behavior could record the same thing, right? And that's exactly what court wants. Court want your facts, not your assumptions. All right, everyone, that's the wrap on crime scene note taking. And with this video, we have officially completed the entire See the Scene chapter under the 7S of crime scene investigation. In the next video, we move on to the 5th S of crime scene investigation, which is sketch the scene. We are going to take all the measurements and observations you documented in your notes today and turn them into proper crime scene sketches. So make sure you don't miss the next video because all these topics connect step by step. And before you leave, if this video helped you even a little, please give it a thumbs up. It genuinely helps the channel more than you think. Also, share this video with your forensic science friends, classmates, or even that one friend you always borrows your notes before exams. And subscribe to Ainan's Forensic Classroom so you officially become part of this growing forensic science community. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.